Joining us now to react is Virginia Republican Congressman Bob Good. Congressman, thanks so much for staying by and sticking with us here. Through that report there, we just heard onto the January 6th committee essentially happening last night. And there have been a series of hearings, as you well know, but last night was focused on 187 minutes of President Trump's inaction, as the committee says, Pence's actions, as the committee says as well. But I'm curious to know your thoughts. All of the what this committee is calling evidence coming forward, still no criminal referral presented. Why?
You know, the Democrat Party is January 6th crazy. They're COVID crazy. They're climate crazy. This is a sham investigation. There's a reason why you only have Democrats on the committee. There's a reason why they have precluded any investigation of Nancy Pelosi. She's off limits. They don't really want to get to the truth about what happened. And I look forward to when we take control, when the American people give us power in November, and we have a true investigation on what really did happen, what really went wrong on January 6th, and let the facts and the truth lead us wherever it takes us.
Were you surprised to know that this committee will continue? They'll head to August recess, but will continue back into September, rather, just prior to the midterm elections?
Well, they're losing on every issue, the Democrats are. They're losing on education. They're losing on the border. They're losing on inflation. They're losing on gas prices. They're losing on groceries. They're losing on the rapid rise in violent crime, as demonstrated by what happened with, thankfully, he saved Congressman Lee Zeldin last night. So the only thing they can talk about is this sham that, hey, there's a climate existential crisis, and they can talk about racism being affecting every issue in the country being systemically racist. Everything's transgender, sexual orientation, diversity, equity, inclusion, and everything is January 6th.
Let me ask you about that. You quickly touched on it. Congressman Lee Zeldin was recently attacked there at a campaign event, the Republican nominee for governor in New York, stumping for his campaign. Your thoughts on that being attacked? The suspect was arrested and charged, released on his own recognizance, not having to pay any bail. Your thoughts on this? Do you think it would have been different if someone from the other side of the political spectrum were attacked? Your thoughts?
It's incredibly sad that in the last couple of years, we have lost trust in our justice system. We've lost trust in our federal law enforcement agencies. And there you have an example, exactly right. Here we have someone attacks a member of Congress, a gubernatorial candidate there in New York, and he's released the next day. It's interesting, even the comment that was made by the current governor of New York, where she said, hey, this has no place. Why would she even need to say that? Of course it has no place. Why doesn't she instead speak to how we need to prosecute violent crime? We need to arrest criminals. We need to end no cash bail. We need to increase our efforts to control violent crime. There's a reason why violent crime is up 30% in American cities, largest cities, Democrat-run cities, including New York. There's a reason why nobody wants to go to New York anymore. And I hope and pray that Lee Zeldin will be elected governor of New York. We need to get a new mayor in New York. Also, obviously, we've just elected one there in New York who's not doing what he said he would do to control crime in New York. But it really does tell us who the left is. This is their response. Take it to the streets, get in their faces, intimidate, threaten justices. Members of Congress. That's what the left does because they cannot win at the ballot box.
The suspect shouted, "You are done," as he was on stage with that sharp, you would say, not a knife, but some sort of sharp object that he was able to put within his knuckles there. Still no motive, according to authorities. I'll move to this if I can. One of the major controversial points as of late is the Supreme Court ruling to overturn Roe v. Wade. You introduced the Life at Conception Act, which would ensure equal protections for the life of the unborn at the moment of conception under the 14th Amendment. I believe the bill has gotten 120 co-signers who support discharging it to the floor for a full vote. Talk to me about that. Do you see any passage? Do you see support for this? What is the future for that piece of legislation?
Yes, I'm driving and sponsoring the effort to get a discharge petition on the House floor. We have one, I should say, but to get as many signatures as possible from the Republicans. We have over 60% of elected Republicans who've signed that discharge petition, nearly 130. We've got 160 plus who are co-sponsors of the Life at Conception Act. We ought to stand up for life. We recognize the science of life. It begins at conception, and it deserves protection. The Republican Party is and should be the party of life from conception. The Democrat Party, as you know, are the extremists. They are the party of death. They are the party party of, hey, we want more abortions, they will not vote for even born alive legislation. So we ought to stand up for life. It will help us politically. All the polls, as you know, the Democrats must just be totally despaired because some 5% or even 1% in some polls of voters are saying that this is the most important issue to them. We can win being bold on life. It's the right thing to do. We ought to put every Republican on record where they truly stand up for life, because that's how they campaign, that's how they run, that's how they fundraise. We're going to elect a lot more pro-life freshman Republicans this year. Next year, we can pass that in the House and move forward legislation that would truly protect all life.
We'll continue to follow that legislation. Congressman Bob Good joining us here.